Now it's time to create our first studio lighting inside Marmoset toolbag. So for creating the first light, I'm going to use this icon here. Okay, and let's change type to Omni. That's it. And let's change the shape from a sphere to rectangle. Okay, and as you can see, we can increase the width and height to create the shape that we want. And I need to have this kind of a straight line and shape. Okay, so remove rotation from transform of this light because it's omni and it's going to fill light in 360-degree. Okay, and let's fix up a position for this. Yeah, like this. Okay, and let's go for brightness like 5.5. That's it. We can play with the temperature too, like this one. Okay, I think 6600. It's okay. And I'm going to duplicate this light with Ctrl D, select the light, and press Ctrl D to duplicate the light. And let's reposition the light to here. If you couldn't see the shape of the light in the viewport, you just need to go over here in the viewport setting and just check show guide. Okay, and you can play with the wireframe here too, and that's it. So let's give rotation 90-degree. Okay, and yeah, boom, I think it's okay for the light number 1. Yeah, this one is better. I can play with the shape too. Yeah, bigger shape, it's better. And let's go for the backlight. So for the backlight, I'm going to duplicate the light, turn off all the light, and let's go here. This is the camera. Okay, this is the camera number 1, and we need to put the light here. So yeah, and let's rotate the light, play with the shape. Okay, like this. And let's bring down the light. And as you can see, we have a very good rim light, and we can play with the temperature like this one. Yeah. Or maybe just white. So we have this light, we have this one, we have this one too. And now we can turn on the skylight. So let's turn on the skylight and we can play with the HDR to have a good lighting condition. For example, let's go for the Kant Yard car park. Yeah, it's good. Let's increase the brightness to something like 3. I think it's good. Let's go for the church. It's much better. Let's go for the 2 or 3. Yeah, it's much better. Let's play with the rotation and let's see what we can have. Okay, this one is better. And let's go for the camera and we can play with the exposure. The exposure one is like this, and we can increase the exposure to something like 2, for example, or just 1.5. That's it. And we are ready to go. Okay, let's increase the light number 1. the intensity, for example, to 6. Yeah. And let's change the position, and I think it's okay here. Okay. And let's go back to the sky. We can play with the color. Yeah, like this. Okay, let's zoom back a little. We can go to the shadow catcher, turn on indirect shadow, and with indirect shadow we have some reflection on the surface. As you can see, we can play with the roughness and specular intensity. Okay, that's it. Let's change the HDRI, and let's use something like bridge waterfall. Increase the brightness. Yeah, it's so much better. 3 is too much. Let's go for the 2. And we have some dark area in here. We can cover this section very fast, very easy inside Marmoset toolbag. We just need to create a white plane to make reflect light. So for this purpose, we can go to the edit plugins and generate primitives, and we want to create a plane for the scene. So we can decide about the width and depth, or x and y dimension for the plane. The 5 is okay for me because it's not necessary for me to set exactly the dimension for this part. And let's create the plane, and boom, the miracle is happening right now. And as you can see, this is the perfect solution to have a white reflective plane for this kind of material, I mean the metallic one. And you can control the material. I'm going to give the default material to the plane, and we can play with the color. And as you can see, we can control the effect on the surface, right? So the pure white is okay for me, but I don't want to have this kind of white background for my render. So I'm going to select the plane, and in the mesh option, I want to use invisible to camera. So in this way, the light is bouncing on the white plane, but as you can see, we're not able to see the plane in the render because it's invisible to the camera. And done. We just create a good lighting condition for our pot. But the matter is, after lighting, we can see scratches on the surface is too much for the material. So we are going back to Substance Painter. Okay. And let's decrease the opacity of the scratches layer to something like 40. And I'm going to apply this 40 to all channels. That's it. And now I'm going to export again. And when we export again in the same path without any changing to the name, after exporting the material in this Marmoset toolbag, it's going to be updated automatically. So let's export. Okay, exporting process is complete right now. And let's go back to the Marmoset. And as you can see, the material just updated itself, and we can have our render. Okay, let's go to the render. I'm going to output section. and I don't want to have transparency. Let's change the color in the background. Okay, like this. And I'm going to create render from the scene from camera 1. And let's create render and see what happened after that. Okay, as you can see, this is the final render, and there is no noise on the surface, and everything is okay. And we can create some post-process level on the Photoshop for this render. Let's do that, but it's not mandatory. This is enough, and you can use it in your portfolio. And let's go for the Photoshop. You can do this level in any software that you want, in any software that you know, and you can make the process longer and give so many detail in this process, in this stage to the render. It depends on your knowledge. But after rendering from Marmoset, this is the steps that I usually take to get better result. So I'm going to apply camera raw filter on the image. So let's load camera raw filter. And in this window and in the effects menu, I increase the texture value to 20, for example. And let's use clarity again. As you can see, it helps us to pop up the detail of the texture and the surface. We can add more vignette here. And that's it for the effect. I'm going for the detail and increase the sharpening to something like 30 or 50. It depends on the picture. And let's go back to the light. In the light, I always give some exposure, play with the contrast, decrease the highlight, increase the shadow. Okay, and that's it. So we can play with the color grading section, but not for this render. Let's press OK, and boom, we have some improvement inside the render. Okay, there is another step that you can take to increase the level of the interesting visual element in your render. Let's go for the preset in the camera raw filter, and we have a lot of preset here, so we can use some of them to create visual effects. Okay, I'm going with CN06, but with this slider I will decrease the intensity of this preset and just press OK. So done. This is how we can render the material that we create inside Marmoset toolbag and create a beautiful image from that. So let's go for the next video. In next video, I'm going to explain another concept inside Substance Painter.